Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwarah, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Now we can start.
Okay.
Vijayji, you can start.
Sure. The author commences his teaching by outlining the qualifications required for a serious seeker to pursue this knowledge. He briefly states that in the following sentence, sadhana chatushtaya sampannadhikaranam moksha adana bhutam tattva
Should I read for you?
Yeah, you could. Well, I don't mind. I'm just very slow at reading this. It takes me. I don't read Sanskrit. I just read the English part, so it's a little hard.
Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikarina Moksha Sadhana Bhutam Tattva Viveka Prakara Makshyamta.
Okay. The author introduces the text in a very beautiful and systematic manner. He expresses 3 points in this opening sentence. 1. What am I to teach? What am I going to teach? What is the subject to be taught? 2. What is the purpose of this study? What benefit is to be derived from teaching? And 3. From whom is this teaching meant? What is the target group, if one were to borrow a term from the modern business management parlance? The opening sentence therefore addresses what, and for whom. First, let us consider the question, what is being taught? The author says, Tattvabodha Prakaram. Tattva in this context means oneself, i.e., real nature of oneself, which is popularly called as Atma in the Shastras. Viveka means analysis or inquiry. So Tattva Viveka means self-analysis, self-inquiry, or finding out whom really am I. Prakaraha means the method, the procedures. So joining the 3 words, Tattva Viveka Prakaraha, means the method of self-inquiry, the method of self-analysis. Self-inquiry will lead to self-knowledge. We know that an inquiry into any subject will lead to the knowledge of that subject, and therefore the author says that he is going to deal with the topic of self-knowledge through self-inquiry so that you will know yourself better. So if you say, I already know about myself, the response of the scriptures is, you think you know, but really speaking, you don't know who you are. And even if you don't know, it doesn't matter, because ignorance, it is said, is bliss. The problem is that not only you don't know who you are, but you have got all kinds of misconceptions about yourself, which makes life worse. Ignorance by itself will create that much of a problem, but erroneous conclusions will lead to worse problems. Self-ignorance and self-error or misconception are 2 problems that are causing havoc in your life. Therefore, better remove the ignorance and misconception and know who you really are. This is the answer to the first question. What is the subject being taught? The second question one may ask is, what is the benefit or purpose for which I have to gain this knowledge? I have successfully managed so many years. I have got married. I have got children. I have got grandchildren. If I have managed successfully for so many years, can I not manage a few more years without Tattvabodha? Why are you interfering in my life? Wow. To this, the author responds, do you really believe that all along you have led a quality life, a life free of strife and misery, life full of happiness and liberation? You have to be honest to yourself. Other than a jnani, a realized soul, No one can honestly answer this question in the affirmative. So, the author continues, why can't you have a quality life for at least the remaining few years of your life? And this knowledge is the only means to have that quality life, which is moksha sadhana bhutam. Bhutam means in the form of sadhanam, in the form of, and sadhanam means an instrument or a cause. Moksha means the fivefold benefits described in the first chapter. So moksha sadhana bhutam means that which appears to be the means of attaining moksha. The author says, I shall teach you this knowledge. This knowledge will give moksha, which would be a welcome benefit for every human being. This will transform the quality of one's life. The advantage will be when the quality of one's life increases, it benefits the other members of the family also. So at least for the benefit of other family members, for the peace of mind of other members of the family, shouldn't one improve? The next question is, oh, shall I continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay. The next question is, for whom is this teaching meant for? What is the target audience? Every institution, be it educational institution or a commercial organization or scientific research institution, etc., has to address this question right in the beginning of undertaking any venture. That is who is eligible to use the product. For example, a student who has to seek admission in any institution has to have several qualifications or eligibility, etc. If he has to study any professional course, he needs to go through an aptitude test. If he has to seek admission in a U.S. university for a master's level program, he has to first qualify through the GMAT or GRE examinations. Even in sports, one has to go through qualifying rounds. In this case, the author calls the target audience for this knowledge as adhikyaranam. Adhikyagari means the eligible students, fit students, prepared students. So the author says that I am teaching this self-knowledge for those students who are fit, ready, and prepared to receive this knowledge. The eligible students are those who possess sadhana chatustaya sampati. Sampana means the one who has or is endowed with virtue, and this virtue is sadhana chatustaya. Chatustaya means fourfold virtues, the fourfold disciplines, or the fourfold qualifications. Whoever possesses these are called the adhikaris. So to sum up, the author says that he is imparting self-knowledge to the qualified students for attainment of moksha. Moksha, okay. Vakyasamaha. The author completes the sentence saying, I am communicating, I am transferring this knowledge. Obviously,
Uh, Now Ganesh you can start.
okay.
Okay, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Obviously, the next question would be, what are these virtues or qualifications? So that one can find out if one is eligible or not for receiving the self-knowledge. It is worth pointing out here that the author presents the entire teaching in the form of a dialogue. This is one of the methods of teaching used by acharyas, especially philosophers. Even some Western philosophers use the format of dialogue for presenting their thoughts. Some of the philosophical books themselves are called dialogues. The advantage of this method is that there is an imaginary student and an imaginary teacher. The student raises the questions and the teacher answers. And the questions raised by the students are generally the ones commonly asked by the people. In the modern parlance, they are called FAQs, frequently asked questions. So the author uses the FAQ method to communicate this teaching. Now, in a dialogue format, it is necessary to know what words are spoken by the student and what words are spoken by the teacher. Mostly, the context itself would supply this detail. However, if it is absent, like in this text, we have to supply the same. So wherever a question is raised in the text, we have to assume that the student is raising the question. In scriptural parlance, this would be stated as Shishya Vacha. Shishya Vacha, the student asks or states. Similarly, for the answers, we have to supply Guruhu Vacha or Acharyaha Vacha. With this background, let us look at this set of Q&A. Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim? Nitya Vastu Vivekah Ihamuttartha-phala-bhoga-viragah Shamadhi-shatka-sampattihi mukshutvam cheti. The student asks, Sadhana Chatushtayam Kim? What is the fourfold requirement for self-knowledge, so that I can acquire them if I do not have them? The teacher enumerates, Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. The first one is Vivekaha, which means discriminative knowledge or clarity in thinking. The most important virtue in life is freedom from muddled or confused thinking. Even in the worst crisis, the one that can keep his cool and enjoy clarity in thinking can win. Adi Shankaracharya has written a very famous work called Viveka Chudamani, which consists of 580 plus verses. Chudamani means the crest jewel. The Acharya says that discrimination or clear thinking alone is the primary ornament of a human being. The gold ornaments or jewels are not the real ornaments. Of course, in contemporary times, the word discrimination is used in media and newspapers in a negative sense. For example, caste discrimination, gender discrimination, nationality discrimination, etc. In these contexts, the word discrimination has the connotation of partiality. But in Vedanta, the word used is viveka, which, in the absence of better equivalent in English, is translated as discrimination in a positive sense, which connotes clear thinking, insight, discernment. So the first qualification is vivekaha or discrimination. Before going into the details, let us briefly understand what is meant by Nitya Anitya Vastu Vivekaha. Nitya Vastu means a permanent one, a permanent thing or a permanent entity. Whatever is permanent is called Nityam. Anitya Vastu means that which is impermanent. And Vivekaha, as we have seen, means discrimination. So the author says that the first qualification is to have a clear awareness of the fact of what is permanent and what is impermanent. What is the purpose of knowing that? The purpose is that if one knows what is impermanent, he will never have wrong expectations. He will not expect permanence in an impermanent thing. For example, permanent happiness cannot come from impermanent thing. This is a very simple fact. But we always expect otherwise. Permanent security cannot come from an impermanent thing. So if one is expecting permanent happiness and permanent security from impermanent sources, then that becomes a foolish and unintelligent expectation. And every unintelligent expectation will lead to sorrows in life. In fact, most of our sorrows in life are not caused by the world or other people. If we examine carefully, we will find that our own wrong expectations are the causes of our sorrow. Every grief which comes into our life is caused by wrong expectations. In our younger days, we might have liked something, and as we grew up, the likes changed. they would have been replaced by new likes and dislikes. It is therefore clear that no like is permanent and no dislike is permanent. And this is not only with regard to things, but with regard to people also. And therefore, the people who once upon a time said I love you may not all the time say I love you. Why? Because mind changes, values change, ideas change, perceptions change. So we have to understand that our body changes, our mind changes, and none of them can remain the same all the time. If we expect them to remain the same all the time, whose mistake is it? It is not the mistake of the changing world, but it is the mistake of our unintelligent expectation. And if we want anything permanent, that is, permanent happiness or permanent security, we should seek them from a permanent source. An intelligent person will seek permanent happiness from a permanent source, temporary happiness from a temporary source. There is no harm in seeking temporary happiness from a temporary security, knowing fully well that it is temporary, because we know that it will end sooner or later. So there is no damage, there is no false expectation. We should therefore have clarity in thinking of what we should seek where. For example, if we go on an apparel shop for Deepavali or Christmas shopping, what will we get there? Only clothes and dresses. If we want shoes, we have to go to a shoe shop. So we must be very clear what we will get where. This clarity of thinking regarding what is permanent and what is impermanent is called vivekaha.
Okay, so
As
I think we can stop here and just dwell upon what we have read so far, because from here it is getting, now we are actually getting into the topic. Ganeshji or Anjuji, if you have any thoughts, please share.
Yeah, I think so far, basically we were gaining a bit of context about what Tattvabodha was. So if we were to quickly see right from the start, we first looked at what is moksha and why should we actually aim for it. What are the benefits of moksha? Then after that, the author introduced the whole gist about Atma, the whole gist about who we are, and why we should know about this true nature of ourselves, and the importance of actually knowing about it. Uh, there were several attributes stated in that particular introduction. It talked about the permanent happiness and the temporary happiness that we get, and the various sources. But the essence was truly that most of us assume that we pretty much know who we are, but in reality, actually, we don't. Uh, so this text basically starts with that perspective, where the saying that Tattvabodha is basically the the true knowledge or the knowledge of knowing our true nature. Uh, and then there are other attributes provided in terms of why, basically just to convince ourselves as to why we should read this particular study. And then I think the first part of the text starts from Swamiji's pravachan, which is sorry, not Swamiji's pravachan. The first part starts with this concept called sadhana chatushtayam, or the fourfold qualifications. Uh, Basically, what Swamiji has said from the text is that for gaining any knowledge, any student or any qualified or any person needs a certain set of qualifications. And even in the context of self-knowledge also, basically the author has illustrated what are the qualifications that are required. So we dwelt into the first qualification, which is basically vivekaha, or basically the ability for us to differentiate, or this discriminating power. Uh, I think that is where we ended so far.
Yeah, this is very important considering the fact that how we uh, expect to have jnanam or gain moksha without any qualification. We just simply expect to get something and we say that everybody will get moksha. There is nothing needed. You simply get moksha. All religions lead to the same goal, and lots of such things we speak. But uh, the only source of moksha is the from self-knowledge, that is jnanam. And for that jnanam, one requires these sort of preparations for gaining that jnanam. And so we have to have these qualities. We also even see that many people who study Vedanta may, some people at least, may go to wrong ways or may not be practicing dharma, and they may actually lose their way. This is because probably they didn't have this sadhana chaturthi, at least not as much required for uh, the jnana to work. So that's the one reason. So it is the sadhana chaturthi is again very important. So in that we are now seeing viveka, which is discrimination. Discrimination we always hear in media, and as Swamiji rightly says, we always hear it in a negative context. But in dharma, in Hinduism, discrimination is actually not a bad thing. I mean, we see it as in a different way. We see it in, we need discrimination for understanding between dharma and adharma. Then only we can understand what is dharma and practice dharma. Similarly, we need an ultimately this for gaining moksha, we need an, not for gaining moksha, for gaining the jnanam, we need this discrimination to look, discrimination to look for look towards jnanam as a source of moksha, instead of looking for securities in temporary things, and securities and happiness in temporary material objects and all other things. So this also say, in a way, shows that some people always claim to that meditation gives enlightenment, or certain karma gives enlightenment. That is also debunked by this very statement of Shastras, because for moksha the only way is jnanam, and to gain that jnanam we should know what is uh, nityam and anityam. A meditation is a limited karma, or any puja, anything. It's all required. Meditation is required, pujas are required, rituals are required, all required. But these are all limited karmas, limited. It is limited by time, and it's for a limited time that you are doing a particular meditation, or a particular time you are doing a puja. It's all required for our gaining our this sadhana chatushtayam. It's required for sadhana chatushtayam, but it cannot give us moksha. It cannot give us jnana. Nobody, as Puja Swami Dayananda Saraswati says, when we sit on meditation, nobody, Atma will not come and say, "Oh, I am Atma, I am myself Brahman," and so you are non-dual reality. And all that Atma will not come and say. And as he rightly says, an ignorant person goes into meditation, an ignorant person meditates, and an ignorant person comes out of meditation. So this clearly shows that um, the only way is jnanam, and for that we have to have this uh, nitya nitya vastu viveka. And I think I can continue. Or Anjali, if she has any thoughts.
What's that?
No, I mean, Anjali, if you have any thoughts, you can share.
Oh, well, my only thought is in all of this, if moksha, it's just the idea that we don't want to see duality in everything, right? We just want to see everything
Yes.
as one, like, um, so there's no, um, what am I trying to say? So I don't see the difference between you and me. We're all one consciousness. Is that the idea of moksha, or am I not seeing it right?
Yeah, moksha is not an idea, it's the truth, realizing the truth that there is only Atma, or there is only Brahman, and which is myself, and there is only this one
Okay.
consciousness. There is nothing else but consciousness. So
Okay.
that's one thing. but sometimes we wrongly apply it on like, because you cannot say go to a shop and buy something and then say, oh, there is only one consciousness, there is no money, there is, we cannot do that. Similarly, we cannot apply when we come to vyavaharikam, that is our transactional daily life, transactional life,
Our
we have to,
duty.
yeah, we have to accept the duality. I mean, it is relative reality, so we have to accept that in this relative reality there is duality, but above all, the truth, the absolute reality is that there is nothing but Atma. So that's, that's what we have to realize correctly, and that's what moksha. So I think I will read now.
Okay.
As regards the second qualification, that is dispassion, the author states, Iha muda, iha mutrartha phala bhoga viraga. Ihamutrartha phalabhoga viraga. In short, we can say that viraga means, this means dispassion, freedom from all types of addiction, freedom from all types of sensory slavery, freedom from all types of emotional hooks. Freedom here connotes mastery. Any type of addiction or slavery creates a stress in mind. A slave can never think clearly, and therefore, an important qualification for any learning is emotional relaxation. So, viragaha means freedom from slavery or addictions. One should be very careful in understanding this qualification. There is a general misconception that dispassion means controlling the mind, suppressing the desires. Vedanta never advocates such an approach, as it is dangerous and would lead to a lot of unpleasant consequences. What is meant by dispassion is what is meant by dispassion is gaining mastery over the mind and sense organs so that their activities can be carefully regulated. What Vedanta scorns at is addiction or slavery to sensory pleasure. It does not advocate complete avoidance. Any addiction is bad and unhealthy, and once a person is addicted to sensory pleasures, he will have no time for other pursuits. What to talk of learning Vedanta? Thus, the author is not against sensory pleasures, but is against addiction to sensory pleasures. And sense pleasures are again divided into two: Iha Artha and Amutra Artha. Iha Artha means sense pleasures. Uh, I think somebody's mic is not muted. Please accept it.
That is me. One second.
Yeah, okay, I'm just saying because I hear this echo. Amutra Iha Artha means sense pleasures available at present or in current times. Amutra Artha means the sense pleasures which could become available in future, in a different time and a different place. We know that human beings are obsessed with both, not only with the present, but we are also obsessed with the future. Building castles in the air is a favorite pastime of most of us. What will happen after my child completes his or her education? He or she will get wonderful job, get enough money, get settled, get married, have children, and take me for a world tour. Such dreams are not uncommon. The irony is that the child being talked about will be only 2 years old now, and this parent is imagining world tour being sponsored by the child. This is called fantasy or fantasizing. Our mind is trapped permanently in these two types of pleasures. Sometimes we are so obsessed and preoccupied with the future that we tend to ignore the present. The author therefore talks about phalam, the result of one's effort in both iha and amutra arthas, present and future sensory pleasures. These are karma phalam. Bhoga means enjoyment. So, with regard to the sensory enjoyment of the present and future, the qualification required is viraga, that is, freedom from addiction, obsession, craving, madness, etc. So, before going to the third qualification, we can discuss some points, or if any questions you can ask. So here the author, here Swamiji discussed the both that mentioned that both Iha means the sensory pleasures now, sensory or any other temporary pleasures now, and also for pleasures we may receive in future. We spend a lot of time thinking about that, or even do acting on that. We can see that one of the greatest threats now we see is terrorism, and now one now the currently the greatest manifestation of it is the ISIS. The, their whole idea is based on that they'll gain, if they establish a country of a certain religion and convert everybody to their religion, they are going to get some swarga. That is, for that they are swarga, and swarga with all the, not swarga actually, heaven, with all that pleasures and whatever they want. So for an imaginary heaven in future, they hope that they'll attain this heaven, and they are making this world uh, actually ridiculous and really hard to live in. So we have people doing like that also. Even the missionaries and evangelicals and all that, they too are working for a future phalam, amutra phalam, that they will get all this heaven by uh, all these means of nonsense and all that. So here the author clearly states that uh, we need a dispassion for all this. So doesn't mean that we should not hope Sorga is, or any other thing. We should not hope. We should not desire any. We should not have any. This we can have desires. Of course, we have to do dharmic acts, which are of course earn punyam, and certainly if we don't gain moksha, we will be uh, as per the Vedas, we will be getting heaven, not heaven, Swarga. I would like to distinguish between these Abrahamic concepts and our concept. So that is very, so it's not saying anything is unnecessary, or we should give up all the desires. Many people, in the name of Vedanta, many people said that you shouldn't desire, you should leave all expectations. That Krishna Bhagavan said we should leave all expectations. Actually, we cannot work without expectations. We certainly, when we go to an exam, we expect to pass, and when we do some action, we certainly have some expectation. Even before reading this book, we Swamiji said, gave us the benefits we are going to get from studying this knowledge. So definitely everybody thinks what I will benefit, what are the benefits I am going to get, and that is unavoidable. So that's not what Shastra say, but unnecessary dependency on or addiction with these temporary pleasures, sensory pleasures, we should get out of that. That's what Shastra says. So I think Anjilji can read the question, or if there are any questions, we can discuss that.
Okay, I think Shamuji, the other point I wanted to just bring out is the point about obsession to a lot of this sensory pleasures.
Yes.
And it was a brilliant example that you gave about ISIS and even the evangelicals, which is basically looking at the future accruing sensory pleasures. But basically, even our day-to-day life, uh, like if I were to just speak about myself, simple things like my desire to know more about what's happening in the world of these evangelists, basically through Facebook forums, through various other what you can say social media. Now that in itself, I realize, is creating an addiction. And what I mean by that is, let's say in the morning, if you get up and if I'm not, I've reached a stage where if I don't refer to Facebook and if I don't actually see my updates, I kind of get very perplexed, as if like there is something which is really missing inside me. So the profound point that is mentioned by Swamiji here is about controlling ourselves or getting our mind enough amount of control for us to be able to not become obsessed with it. Because if we are obsessed, and I've seen this actually playing many times, that we are not able to really think very clearly. So let's say my wife is telling me about something and I am in my morning routine to basically open my iPad and check the updates of Facebook. It is natural that I will not pay 100% attention to her. It is natural that I will probably not do 100% all my routine with 100% efficiency. So actually relating to this practical day-to-day life, I can see many instances where this whole aspect about viraga is very, very important, especially for a Vedantic student.
Yeah, yeah, very wise words actually. What you said is perfectly true, even with me. Uh, yeah, Facebook and other anything for that matter, TV, everything can become addiction. But at the same time, we can also use them for dharmic purposes. Like we should know about what evangelicals are doing, what ISIS is doing, so that we can ensure the safety of our people, the country, and everything. But if that becomes addiction, not just what our family things like listen, we don't really listen to wife or not just that. Yeah, that's also there, but we can't even act. We can act accordance with dharma when we are obsessed with something. We'll be having extreme emotions. We cannot think clearly, as you said, and we cannot even do the right thing. For even if I am getting too much angry about something I saw in Facebook, or I cannot actually act in a way that is needed. So we need to have this viraga even that there. Okay, even in our workplace or anything, if we have to think clear, then we have to have this viraga. Mm. Of- we should have to get rid of this obsession. When we are obsessed, we can never think clearly, and even what we are obsessed about, we cannot do it rightly. I think Anjuji can read.
Okay.
Or I
Um,
think we can close now because 8:30 we have Bhagavad Gita class. We can close a bit early this time.
okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
पूर्णमुदच्यते
Purnasya
पूर्णस्य
Purnamadaraya
पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते
Purnamevavasishyate Hari
ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरि
Om.
ओम
Thank you.
हरि ओम
Hari Om.
Yeah, great.